I believe a market crash is coming 6 to 24 months from now. And the only reason I put that 6 to 24 is because the Fed and our politicians are trying, the White House is trying to do whatever they can through purely fake way of increasing interest rates, or a different kind of build back better plans, whatever they're going to be doing to put money into the system to delay this market crash and the recession that's coming. Midterms is around the corner, so it could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, it could be 24 months, but it's coming. Recession's going to probably be announced a lot sooner. It could be as soon as July, it could be as soon as Q4, but that's also coming here soon.
Is there a risk of inflation? I think there's a small risk, and I think it's manageable. I don't anticipate that inflation is going to be a problem, but it is something that we're watching very carefully.
Was it a mistake, Madam Secretary, to downplay this inflation risk? Did that contribute to the problems we're all seeing right now?
Well, look, I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices, and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I at the time didn't fully understand. But we recognize that now. The Federal Reserve is taking the steps that it needs to take. It's up to them to decide what to do. And for our part, President Biden is focused on supplementing what the Fed does with actions we can take to lower the costs that Americans face for important expenditures they have in their budgets. Look, I'm not going to comment on the Fed's policies. Chair Powell has made clear that he has every intention and believes, as I would, that the Fed has the tools to bring inflation down, and that's his focus. The Fed has a dual mandate. The economy is, I think it's fair to say, operating at full employment with the strongest job market in generations. Inflation's too high, and it's got to be brought down.
Well, the reason they're talking about inflation or deflation is because way back when I was in the 70s, a true capitalist would let a business fail. Okay, understand that capitalism, according to Schumpeter, is that capitalism destroys inefficient companies. The reason inflation is going to wipe out people is because the average person is a consumer. But that's because Biden and company and the Fed are protecting the bankers. So that's why I feel for the working class people. I think it's criminal that our school system is part of Marxism. There's no financial education in schools, and it's not a mistake. So the people who are complaining about inflation, just know it's because the Federal Reserve Bank, the U.S. Treasury, which is Janet Yellen, who was also head of the Federal Reserve Bank, they're as corrupt as they come.
My market crash philosophy that I follow every time a time like this comes, and I don't believe a time like this is going to come for another 20 to 40 years, maybe not even in my lifetime, because the perfect storm of what's going on today with how COVID came and we were asked to stay home, but money was sent home. We printed trillions of dollars of money, and a lot of it went to the rich. Some guys went from being worth $20 billion to $300 billion. Some went from being worth $1 million to $300 million. And then some of them are going to be corrected today. And then, at the same time, the inflation, gas, Ukraine, Afghanistan, there are so many different things that are hitting at the same time, 128-month economic expansion, that we're being affected by it. So if you're ready for it, this is when you add the next zero to your net worth. If you're worth 100 grand, you ought to be worth $1 million in the next 12, 24, 36 months. If you're worth $1 million, you ought to be worth $10 million if you do it right the next 2, 3 years. Recessions are a good thing for marketplace. I believe we need to actually go through a recession, and our politicians need to allow this to happen, but it's actually good for the marketplace. I'll explain to you why. It's the best time to build wealth, and only the prepared will prevail during this time.
Debt to GDP is a correlation of M2, the volume of money, times the velocity of money. And the reason Yellen and Powell are scrambling is because they've expanded M2, so everybody thinks there's going to be inflation. But velocity of money, the velocity of money is plummeting. People are not spending. So they pump all this money in, prices go up. Meanwhile, the Asians are catching up now. The ports are finally open, so it is transitory inflation. But the problem is we're stacked with this massive debt, and all it's done is bump up the stock market and real estate market. The money has not gone into the economy. That's the sad part. So the rich get richer, but the poor and middle class are getting poorer. It is tragic what's happening today. So technology is going to wipe out more jobs. Like, who's going to fly? Who's going to stay at a hotel? You know, I can now do more seminars in a day. You know, I did one the other day. I did a recording in Europe. I did one in the States, and then that evening I did one in Singapore. So meanwhile, they're trying to keep these dead industries afloat, and somebody's going to say, hey, it cannot go much further, and it's coming this October because the velocity of money is now too slow. Savings are going up, spending is going down. This is going to be the biggest crash in world history. We have never had this much debt pumped up. Debt is the biggest problem of all, but that's called M2, money supply. And the debt to GDP ratio is out of sight. So when it comes down, which it brings everything down with it, that's when I'm going to be buying more gold, silver, and Bitcoin.
Market crash is coming, and it's going to be very ugly. You're going to buy a lot of stocks so cheap right now. So you got every one of these stocks you look at, where they're at right now, all of them. But it's going to get worse the next 12 to 18 months, maybe 24 months, the market. House prices are going to drop 20 to 40% in the next 12 to 24 months. Okay. House prices are going to drop the next 12 to 24 months. It's the people that are prepared are going to go and add... they're going to take their net worth and do 5 to 50 times in the next 2 to 5 years. 5 to 50 times. You're going to see guys, and I'm telling you right now, you're going to see $1 million guys be $100 million guys the next 2 to 5 years. You're going to see $10 million guys be billionaires the next 2 to 5 years, the ones who are ready. But you're also going to see the highly leveraged $200 million guy become a $17 million guy. You're going to see the highly leveraged $18 million guy become a $600,000 guy.